of being built up on their most holy faith or on faith, which, as we understand, faith is the substance, but it is something that we can't see. It has to be a heart matter. It has to be a heart condition, right? It has to be a belief. So at this point, the fear was that all this work we done, Paul had done, and Timothy and the rest of them who had been witnessing and converting, after all of this and after all of the letters, because of course we know this is a letter, after all of the letters we've sent to you, you still aren't holding on to this faith. So let us explain why. So then it brings us to this, and I'm going to read this in the Amplified, because y'all know I love the Amplified. It just makes it a little more clear to me, but you can follow along either way. So we see chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses who by faith have testified to the truth of God's absolute faithfulness, stripping off every unnecessary weight and the sin which so easily and cleverly entangles us, let us run with endurance and active persistence the race that is set before us. So the first thing we observe in this is that they liken the Christian experience to a race. All right. So that means if we're in a race, that means we are the what? Yeah, the athletes, the runners. So there are certain conditions to run a race. Have you ever seen anybody run a race and just what they call the windmill run? Y'all see Friends where people's like, but I want to run like this. It's more fun to run like this. Who says I have to keep a stride? But that's important. Has anyone run track like in high school? I should have known your little fit self. That's why you still looking good. You still looking good. Still got it. But that's why you build up an endurance, especially if you're doing distance. We used to watch the kids who ran cross country, and they would run. Listen, you would think it was illegal. Like, what are they doing by Jamestown Mall? And, okay, I'm sorry. I'll speak St. Louis. I'm sorry. But I live by Hazelwood Central. And they would be running miles away from the school, 5 miles from school. But they had to build up their endurance. They didn't start off that way. They didn't start off that way. They didn't come into running cross country able to run 5 miles. You could think you can, but do it. Do it. Try a triathlon and not train. Try to run a marathon and not train. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen? First of all, you're going to do what? Man. But even before then, you're going to get tired. You're going to get tired. You're going to become tired quickly. You're going to pass out. You could possibly pull something, hurt something, break something, strain something, because you haven't properly trained. So this is where he's bringing it. He's setting it like a race, because what he wants us to understand is, first of all, you are a part of the race. You are a runner in this race. You are the athlete. That means that this is not a life that you look at from the outside, but you are a participant. Now, we are surrounded by those who are looking at us from the out, this cloud of witnesses. These people that are watching our faith. But this cloud of witnesses, we are surrounded by them or encompassed by them because they've already run their race. And he's showing us an example of those who have run before. I believe when Mike Phelps, or is that his name, the swimmer? I'm sure he watched so many videos of people swimming, mimicking their form, their technique. If he saw someone that he felt he had a similar style, he would probably watch theirs more. Someone he was aspiring to be like, he probably watched theirs more. But he had to watch somebody that did it and endured it before him. So then in chapter 11, it already told us who did it. These are the tapes to watch. Watch their video. If you get confused on how to do it, if you feel like no one has done it before, look at your forefathers. Because by faith they did this, and by faith they did that. And that's something you can put your finger on. That's something you can see, right? It manifests itself because it's already been done. So now, wherefore, or as they said in the Amplified, therefore, reason, for this reason, since you are compassive, since you have examples, now it's time to run your race. It's time to run your race. Looking away from all that we're distracted. I found out that in a race, look, casting aside every weight. You don't need anything heavy on you when you're running. Do you see people running a race in a suit and church clothes and they think they're going to onto the finish line? No. They wear the proper attire. They take the weights off. Oh, I can run and shout. I think I can do anything and shout. They put on the proper attire. So then another thing they don't do is wear loose and baggy clothes, right? And the sin that easily beset or entangles us.
All right now.
Something we can get caught up in. I wasn't running this. I probably barely make it up the steps for choir rehearsal in this. I will trip over this. And it's easy to, right? Look, I didn't even try that hard. Easily. I've become easily. Take that off. Take it off. Because this is a race. And a race is about patience and endurance. It's about keeping the pace. It's about finishing strong. Right? So then we get to the point where he said, well, how do we do this? Verse 2, looking away from all that will distract us and focusing our eyes on Jesus, who is the author and perfecter of faith. In other words, the first incentive for our belief and the one who brings our faith to maturity. So not only does he put it in you, or he plants the seed of faith in you, then he produces it, and from that faith comes faith. From my initial belief becomes my life as a believer. That's what it should interpret to. He said, who for the joy of accomplishing the goal set before him endured the cross. And the one thing about the cross that people like to negate is, yes, it was horrible. Don't get me wrong, the stripes and that. But what made dying on the cross worse is the humiliation.
Right.
It was considered one of the most humiliating ways to die. So for him to choose that route, he could have chosen any route to die. Look, you just tell them, take some stones, get me while I'm praying, have them knock me on the back of the head, then I'll calmly die and ascend to my Father. That route wasn't chosen for him.
That's right. That's right.
Why go by way of the cross? But it was for the joy that was, for accomplishing the goal that was set. The goal that was set before him was salvation. And for you to believe unto salvation. For you to believe unto salvation. But he went by way of the humiliation of the cross. He said, disregarding the shame. That's why it shouldn't bother us what we go through. Because how shameful. How shameful of a position. I don't want to harp on that because I could. That's a message all by itself. We can stop right there. We can stop right there. He said, but he disregarded the shame and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God, revealing his deity, his authority, and the completion of his work. When he was on the cross, he said, what? It is finished. Why is this significant? We'll find out why it's so significant when we get to the end of this chapter. He said, just consider and meditate on him who endured from sinners such bitter hostility against himself. Consider it all in comparison with your trials, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Look, I'm not serving or worshiping or following or subscribing to someone who's not acquainted with my grief, who didn't carry my sorrow. He took it all the way through to humiliation. So because he did, I can. I got this. I'm not going to lose heart because it gets hard, because it got the hardest for him. I'm not going to quit because I'm embarrassed, because it's gotten the most shameful for him. So he said, look, consider that when you get weak and weary while you're running, because this is a race, y'all. You know how sometimes we be so tired, like, forget it. I used to do that all the time. I was fat when I was little. So you have to run the mile, and we want you to run it in less than 10 minutes. Already, please. Count me out. I ain't care about being the fat girl in the back walking and talking to her friend. And when you're done, we still have a half hour in this class. If I could get it done in a half hour, it's going to happen. I'm a quitter. I'm a quitter. Fight or fly, don't fight. I fly. I do. And my husband always counted down. 3, 2, 1, and I'm out of here. That's my answer to everything. I'm leaving. I don't have to do this. I live at 8730. I always spit out my address. I give up. But I have to remember those who came. If you remember those who came before you, if you remember your ancestors, then you'll understand the value of voting, right? Come on now. If you remember their slavery, then you understand the joy of being free, right? So now he has us saying, remember him.
Yes, Lord.
Let that be your inspiration.
Yes.
So that when they say you have to finish the mile, I'm not going to give up. Be like, so? Like Maddie used to say, it's only recess. Maddie, if you don't finish your work, you can't go to recess. So what? It's only recess. Her teacher would hate that. I don't like outside anyway. Maddie. Don't say it's only recess and give up. Run. Run, because it's going to be hard. That's the bottom line.
Yes, God.
We would love to say that life is like a box of chocolates. We would love to say life is easy. I could have got that on the radio show, too. That was easy Sunday morning. Come on, me too. Yes, the morning show. That was the guest on the movie. Y'all don't. I said it at home. I just didn't have time to call. Y'all see how late I be. And that's focused. He said, verse 4, you have not yet struggled to the point of shedding blood in your striving against sin. Isn't that something? But we want to give up. He's like, but you shed blood? And you still ready to give up? What? Verse 5, and you have forgotten the divine word of encouragement, which is addressed to you, to you as sons. My son, do not make light of the discipline of the Lord, and do not lose heart and give up when you are corrected by him. For the Lord disciplines and corrects those whom he loves. Okay, I looked at that, though. I'm like, okay, people say that all the time. I know, you discipline. We get it. We're going to go through trials. They're going to make us strong. But why choose this choice? Why use this phrase? So when I looked up discipline, it means to condition, or to train, or to groom, or to prepare. So now when you're looking at it as a race, he who he loves, he's going to train you.
That's right.
He's not expecting you to run this race fat and tired and sloppy and not able to catch your breath. That's not what he's doing. So we don't look at it as being tortured. We look at it as being conditioned. We begin to look at our trials in a different light. That they're no longer coming to take us out or take us down, but we really can understand that we can count it all joy when falling into diverse or different temptations, knowing this. Come with that confidence. As a runner, he wants to put us in shape. We have to get in shape. As a father would do their child.
Yes, Lord.
I couldn't see me just sending my kids out into the world like, and there you go. Get out there and make something of yourselves. Never putting them through school, never spending all this money, putting Maddie through private school, never spending all this money having to move and do all this stuff and helping my mom so that Thomas could go to a better school, so that he could have better opportunities. No, I'm just going, don't go to school, just get out there. You would think that about some of my students. Unfortunately, it happens. I have students every day whose parents don't care if they go to school. I have a student every day, he's in the 5th grade. Every time we have a thing and I tell him read the scripture, he don't want to because he still cannot read. And it's not a concern. It's not a concern. But as a good parent, you want to give them those instructions. You want to train and prepare. If the school, if my son couldn't read, it wouldn't be about the school. First of all, he wouldn't be at that school anymore. But also, then I would have to do my job to get in there and read. I've been reading to my children since the womb. I read a whole set of encyclopedias at the time. That guy here, genius. He is. Yeah, I want to fight him today like a stranger. Pray for him. Pray for his life when I get home. Have to get off the phone. For the Lord disciplines and corrects those whom he loves. He don't want to send you out there like that. He don't want to send you out there like that. You must submit to correction for the purpose of discipline. God is dealing with you as with sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? Verse 8. Now, if you are exempt from correction and without discipline, in which all of God's children share, then you are illegitimate children and not sons at all. I don't want to deal with it. You know what? I'm not going through this. I'm not getting ready to do this. I know the answer. Tell him pick me up. We finna go ahead and hit up barcode. And the name. Oh, y'all, I'm not supposed to know the name. We're going to hit up Qtopia. I'm not supposed to know the names. We're going to hit up, what's another club? These are clubs. These are places where people go and have drinks and throw darts and shoot pool because they don't want to sit at home and take on the chastisement of the Lord when he's trying to teach them something. They're impatient. So they go to other things. I'm not getting ready to do this. I'm not getting ready to go through this. I don't have to. I don't have to. I had a lady tell me, I haven't had a sugar daddy in years. But I'm really thinking about it because my husband, like, wait a minute, what? Hold on. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I gotta be ready for these type of things. I haven't had a sugar daddy in years, but girl, take the chastisement of the Lord. Maybe he's teaching you budgeting skills in this season.
That's right.
You can't just rely on other things. And that's what he was saying. If you don't want the discipline, if you don't want to share it, just like everybody else, if being a Christian is too hard, if having faith is too difficult, then you're not a son anyway. You're illegitimate. Don't need you. Time. Moreover, he said we had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we submitted and respected them for training us. Shall we not much more willingly submit to the Father of spirits and live by learning from his discipline? For our earthly fathers disciplined us for only a short time. It seemed best to them. But he, or God, disciplines us for our good, so that we may share his holiness. For the time being, no discipline brings joy, but seems sad and painful. I'm sorry, yeah, for the time being, no discipline brings joy. For the time being, I don't know. Yeah, no discipline brings joy. But say, come on, Amplified, help me out. But seems sad and painful because we don't want to go through anything.
That's right.
If we don't feel like if we're not doing this to be conditioned and running the race, in other words, this discipline is not going to bring joy. To us, we're going to be sad and, oh, the Lord just trying me, you know I'm going through, it's just the Lord, he just beat me on it. Oh, I've heard people say, the Lord, he must not want me to be blessed in this area because he sure not. He said, but yet those who have been trained by it, afterwards, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness or right standing with God and a lifestyle and attitude that seeks conformity to God's will and purpose. So in other words, those who's not looking at it as punishment, but look at it as training.
Yes, Lord.
To you, it's going to bring peace. To you, it's going to help, mold your purpose. Because I want to be fit. Because I want to run. Most people who volunteer for track like to run. I don't run. I don't run. Somebody said, but if they train you right, you can love it. Who? Has to be the Holy Ghost. Because there's nothing about running I like. I hate that sound of, you all alone with your thoughts in your pants and don't need it. You're tired, and then I get that fat cramp right here. It's over, legs be all, shins. I can't. But those who like to run, they like to run. And honey, the more conditioning, if somebody will work with them on the weekends, they'll take it because they want to be the best. So they're not looking at it as, oh man, he really coming down on me. Coach hate me. And coach just know. They're like, man, coach hard on me. But that's a good coach. Coach training me. Coach got me. They're looking at it because they understand the fruitfulness that's going to come from it. They understand that serving the Lord will pay off after a while. Oh, come on, not in just the next life, but in this life. In this life, chapter 12, he says, so then, because you know all of this, because now I've told you why I'm training and conditioning you. He says, so then strengthen hands that are weak and knees that tremble. That's still making sure your body is in good shape. Some of these things they can't teach you. They can't teach you how not to be nervous. If you're nervous, you're just nervous. Y'all, my poor mother-in-law is so afraid of heights. So afraid. We took her to Bush Stadium. And we were only like 3 floors up. They told them to stand for the Star Spangled Banner. She just spilled Coke all down the man in front of her. She's shaking so bad. The pop is just falling out. She's like, I'm so sorry, but I'm too scared. They got me standing up. I don't care how brave and how much Holy Ghost this lady has. She is deathly afraid of heights. And the nervousness would not stop. We just apologized to little Melvin, like, just take her home. She's not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm sorry, y'all. Thanks for the tickets. I can't do this. Is there another way I could get down and not an elevator? Oh, yes, honey, yes. To death. She won't stay over the 2nd floor in the hotel, and then still she won't look at the windows. I don't need to see it. You can't train that. And I mean, this is a lady, honey. You're talking a good old Kojic. First elect lady. Honey, listen, she still don't do pants, still don't do makeup. And when she see you, she gonna say, holiness is right. Holiness is right. That's her thing. And you give her the mic after church, and everybody just needs to be saved. Yes, ma'am. And get right with Christ. Yes, ma'am. But you can't take all of that. Didn't make her not nervous. Couldn't knock the fear out of her. Now, I don't think if she goes to the Lord sincerely, he can help her because he listens to her. However, she hasn't done it yet. So it's up to you. That's up to you to take courage. That's up to you to take courage and strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that tremble. That means stand firm in what you've been taught. Stand firm in what you know. He said, cut through and make smooth, straight paths for your feet that are safe and go in the right direction, so that the leg which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather may be healed. So that you don't keep running and make yourself worse, in other words. Quit making it worse. I'm sorry, strengthen yourself. Okay, we're almost done, guys, because I'm getting to my favorite part. Because this is what he's summarizing this to bring us to verse 18. But we're still in verse 14. Continually pursue peace with everyone and the sanctification without which no one will ever see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of God's grace, that no root of resentment springs up and causes trouble, and by it many be defiled. That's one of the first things that have separation and division in the church. Usually come with somebody getting mad. And you do not need to be so-and-so, so-and-so. You want to be talking to them over there at their church and da-da-da-da-da. Now, next thing you know, now it's not just me that don't like you. We don't like you. We have a problem with you. Then people start talking about cliques and all of this stuff in churches. But this comes because people don't root out those vines of resentment. We don't like to confront anything. And I get it. Everybody is not confrontational. But you have to figure out a way to communicate.
Come on now.
We just do, because we can't say, let it go. Right. Forget it, so. One of my students today, so we got caught. I said, how was your day? I asked him every day, how's school, Sherman? Bad. He's a little bad. Why? Because I got in trouble. Because Corian stole that gum and gave it to me. And the teacher got mad and said he wasn't bringing us anything else. And we said, so what? We don't care. What? No. I said, no one owes you anything, Sherman. And you shouldn't be so quick to let it go. That was nice of him to think of you all. And now his good gesture has gone punished, because now he's like, well, I'm not bringing anything else, thinking that would, they're pull at their heartstrings. They're like, so? We don't want it anyway. What? But y'all stole it, so you did want it. You did want it. I said, so since you came here today and we have Burger King for you and all this stuff, you're not going to be rewarded for bad behavior, right? You thought you were just going to confide in me, and then it was going to be all good. First of all, give me that gum. I'll take the gum you stole. I'm throwing this away. I said, and then your Burger King, let's nix that. I'm going to make you a sandwich. You could get an orange, and I'll give you a bottle of water, no Capri Sun. But Miss Mel, I stole the gum. Jim told him so. You don't care? I do. I care. I care. And that's what we have to do. We have to care. We have to care. We can't be okay. I ain't speaking to you. Okay? No. Because then somebody gonna say, why you ain't speaking to so-and-so? Girl, did you know? So she done. And that's what he said. And I snitched on him. You don't snitch, get stitches, Sherman. Now everybody's gonna be mad at you. You sprung up a vine of resentment. He said, don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. He said, and see that no one is immoral or godless like Esau, who sold his own birthright for a single meal. For you know that later on, when he wanted to regain title to his inheritance of the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no opportunity for repentance. There was no way to repair what he had done. No chance to recall the choice he had made, even though he sought for it with bitter tears.
Yes.
He said, don't let people be like that, where you let it get so bad that no matter how much they cry and plead. Because I told them today, no burger. They all looked at me like, I said, he knows that's not up for debate. But had he kept saying something, he could have made it irreversible. It could have gotten to a point to where I said, oh, you'll never get. Now, you just punished today. So he said, don't let anybody get like that. Don't let them be like Esau, where they become so like this and so bitter and so messed up and so willing to move and stick and move and steal and rob Peter, pay Paul, to where when it's time for his blessing, no matter what he says, he's not getting it. No matter how much he asked for it. He said, this is now the contrast of Sinai and Zion. Verse 18, for you have not come as did the Israelites in the wilderness to a mountain that can be touched, and to a blazing fire, and to gloom and darkness and a raging windstorm. In other words, he's telling them, because I'm going to kind of summarize this part because we want to look at that comparison. He's comparing Sinai to Zion. And there's a difference. On Mount Sinai, that's where Moses received the law. That's where there was the burning bush. That's where the command had to come and they had to be put. Basically, the rules and the laws had to be so strenuous so that it will change their mentality from them being slaves from where they were from and give them some type of order and a way for them to monitor signs and seasons, a way for them to understand when sowing and reaping is, a way for them to understand the punishment of sin. He had to do all these things. He had to give them feasts and laws and all of this stuff. He said, to you it should be a new year. Why? So they know when to sow, so they know that this was the former rain, and know that they were supposed to do the next feast at the latter rain. Thank you. My auntie Mom, y'all know, she be having me. She does. Yes, good. Thank you. She takes great care of me. I need it. But so he was telling them, listen, this is not that. This is not who this is. You all are trying to go back into that. You all want to go back to slaying the lamb. You all don't want to see that I was the sacrificial lamb. You all want to go back into having the priest go in for forgiveness for you once a year instead of me doing it once and for all. You want to go back to all these rules and regulations. He said, that's what happened on Mount Sinai. That was for them. But I realized that that wasn't saving them. It wasn't working. Had it worked, then we would not have needed him to come and to give us salvation. We would not have needed him to become God in us, or Emmanuel, God with us. Had it been working. You're like, but y'all trying to go back there. And it wasn't even working. We lose faith. We try to go back to these frivolous things that we did before we got saved, thinking that that's going to be the answer, but it didn't work. If it worked, wouldn't you still be doing it? If drinking worked, wouldn't you still be doing it? If gambling worked, wouldn't you still be doing it? If sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and Harpo worked, wouldn't you still be doing it? But it doesn't. It doesn't. So he's saying, don't lose the faith. Don't go back to Mount Sinai where I had to give you all these rules and regulations and laws and had to force my word in you, had to force a relationship with you, had to force you to get to know me. He said, I came to do away with all of that. Now this is a new thing. This is the New Testament. This is a new covenant. That's the word I was looking for. This is a new covenant. You're no longer under the old covenant. And I get it. We have conversations with the law versus now all the time. Because I know me, I still keep Passover. I still do the Feast of Trumpets. I still do, because there are certain feasts that are still, what do you call it, where it's a foreshadow of what's to come. It's just informational. But I don't think my salvation is hinged upon it.
That's
If I decide not to do Passover, which I never have, if I decide not to do Passover, I honestly, personally don't think I will go to hell. And I'm just saying, Melva, this is my own revelation. I can't give y'all that revelation. That's something the Lord has to deal with you with and give to you. Same with the Sabbath. Everybody was wondering, well, why would you leave 59 and you know you're a Sabbath keeper? You go to the church and they don't keep the Sabbath. I said, I don't need a building to tell me to keep the Sabbath. Oh, come on. If I'm a Sabbath keeper, if that's something I choose to do, that's not going to change.
That's right.
That's something I choose to do. Doesn't matter if I come in here on Saturday or not. I know people who keep the Sabbath and still don't believe it. I mean, who go to church on Saturday and still don't believe it. They just don't. They just happen to go to the church. I've met a lot of people like that. So he's trying to say, I get that the law was necessary for you at that time, Israelites. But it wasn't working. So then I brought a new covenant. And in my new covenant, that's Mount Zion. So then let's go there. Let me see what verse that is, because y'all know I will get off course. But you have come, verse 22. But you have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to myriads of angels in festive gathering, verse 23, and to the general assembly and assembly of the firstborn who are registered as citizens in heaven, and to God, who is judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous, the redeemed in heaven, who have been made perfect, bringing them to their final glory, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, uniting God and man, and to the sprinkled blood which speaks of mercy, a better and nobler and more gracious message than the blood of Abel, which cried out for vengeance. He said, look, you've been washed with the blood of the Lamb. I need you to put down the mustard and catch up. Get it together. You don't need to go back into what you were in. I have issued a new covenant, and this is me in you. And it is accessed by your faith. How do we know this? Because chapter 11, we already did it. By faith, they did this. By faith, he did that. By faith, they did this. By faith, they did that. You can try to do it another way if you want. But that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So he's encouraging them, listen, it's going to get hard. It's going to seem like the old way is better. It's going to seem annoying going through trials. We get it. But remember the one who went through more severely than you. Remember that this is training. Remember that this is a race. So then it requires patience. It requires patience. He says, see to it, verse 25, see to it that you do not refuse to listen to him who is speaking to you now. For if those sons of Israel did not escape when they refused to listen to him who warned them on earth revealing God's will, how much less will we escape if we turn our backs on him who warns from heaven? So in other words, if they didn't escape it just listening to Moses and them, how much more is it when we're hearing from Christ, from the Messiah, from the one who did all of this so we can have all of this? He said his voice shook the earth at Mount Sinai. Then, but now he has given a promise saying, yet once more will I shake not only the earth, but also the starry heaven. Now this expression, yet once more, indicates the removal and final transformation of all those things which can be shaken. In other words, temporal things. These temporary things that we seem to be distracted, so, they so easily entangle us. And then they so easily make us heavy. How we gonna race with these big old heavy clothes on? He said, don't, because I've given you a promise that when these things be shaken, all that's gonna come off. He said, so the things which cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, for this reason, since we receive a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us show gratitude. Yes, and offer to God pleasing service and acceptable worship with reverence and awe. For our God is indeed a consuming fire. I found out a consumer, because I looked at it, y'all know I look up every single thing. Consuming fire comes from the Latin word, and it's two parts. Con means altogether, and sumer means to take up. Consuming fires indicates it completely destroys. He completely destroys. See, listen, when deliverance comes, see, when he comes, when you allow him to deliver you,
Yes, Lord.
when your trust is solely in him, and you allow him, you abide in him, and his word abide in you. And you meditate on it like he told Joshua, so that you don't turn to the left or the right. When you allow him to consume those things, he destroys it. He don't leave remnants. And that's what he's telling them. I'm not leaving you the remnant of the things that happened in Mount Sinai. This is a new covenant.
Yes, Lord.
I'm a consuming fire. I burnt all of that up. I burnt all of that up. This is a new, behold, I do a new thing. This is a new thing. This is my covenant, my commandment, my testament. That's why he came. He said, wherefore sin, that you are surrounded. And when you think about a cloud, it's all around you, even though you're still able to move around. You know, a fog is cloud, right? That's the lowest cloud. Y'all know I'm a nerd. That's the lowest cloud in our layers of clouds, fog. And when you are surrounded by it, yeah, it looks hazy, but it's there, and you're still able to get around. It's like normal. You're still able to get around through it. Maddie said, before you get off this plane, can I stand on that cloud or through it? Maddie is not as solid as it looks. I said, did you see how we just came through it? Oh, yeah.